Greetings and welcome to another lesson in introductory psychology. This is social psychology, specifically compliance. Now, compliance is not the same as obedience. Compliance is not when you have to obey someone, when someone gives you an order and you do it. Compliance is when you're giving in to a request, not from someone in power, from someone of the same level, and maybe even someone who doesn't have as much power as you do. It's when someone asks you to do something and you decide whether or not to do it. That's compliance, giving in to a request. Now, compliance is studied very, very thoroughly by salespeople. Anyone who's trying to sell you something is going to be good at these. Also, by the way, children are very good at these because children get a lot of what they want by asking parents, and so they have to figure out the best way to do it. It's amazing how quickly kids can come up with these kind of all on their own, and you may recognize some of these in the behaviors that you yourself do. But we're kind of going to stick with the salespeople, although we'll go with it. There's several different techniques that are used for compliance, and luckily they're named pretty much exactly what they are. The first is called the foot in the door technique. Now, this one actually was named when traveling salesmen used to go door to door selling things. You don't see this as much now other than things like magazine subscriptions and Girl Scout cookies. But salespeople, mostly salesmen actually, used to indeed go door to door. They'd be selling vacuum cleaners or encyclopedias and so forth. And the trick essentially would be, in a lot of cases, is once you get the person talking to you, then you have a much better chance of making a sale. It's part of the reason why if you go to a car dealership, you're always going to have someone swooping down on you going, "Can I help you? Can I show you a car? Can I do this?" Because if you can get some sort of connection going on, people are much more likely to eventually give in to what you ask. That's kind of what foot in the door is. The salesman selling vacuum cleaners would knock on the door, and the person at home would open it, and the salesman would say, "Hi, would you like to buy a vacuum cleaner?" And the person would probably say no and start to close the door. Now, the idea here is, although I don't think it actually happened very much since this could lead to potential violence, would be the salesman, who hopefully had very sturdy shoes on, would stick their foot in the door so the door could not be fully closed. If you cannot close your door, you're not going to stand there with an open door and a stranger outside. The person is going to basically then have to listen to what the salesman says because they can't shut the door. Okay? And then the salesman could keep talking and hopefully get the person to open the door and let him in, and the sale would go from there. So when we're talking about something a little less literal, the foot in the door technique is you ask for something small, like someone's attention. Listen to me. You ask for something small. When they give in to that, they're going to be more likely in the future to give in to something larger. They've already given in to you once. You already have a relationship going of sorts. So therefore, you ask for something small, you get it, you ask for something larger. Little kids will do this a lot. They will start small and they will work their way up. Kid comes up to you, child does in the store, says, "Can I get a pack of gum? It's only a quarter." And you think it's a pack of gum. Sure, get a pack of gum. Child comes back a few minutes later with a candy bar and says, "Oh, look, I'd rather have this. It's only a little more expensive and I'll put the gum back." And you're thinking, "Oh, it's only like $1, sure." Kid comes back again. Toy, $4. "Oh, can I get this instead? I'll put the candy bar. This will last longer. Please, 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 please." Oh, I mean, by the end of the shopping trip, the kid has just wangled you into buying them, $150 stereo system because you start small and work your way up. That's the foot in the door technique. On the other hand, you could also do what's called the door in the face technique. And this is also has a rather evocative title. The idea here was, same traveling salesman selling vacuum cleaners knocks on the door. The person at home opens the door. The salesman says, "Hi, I have this wonderful vacuum cleaner for sale. It's only $560. Slam! Well, yeah, you hear 560 anything, unless it's a penny, you're probably going to shut the door. Salesperson knocks again. Person, at least in theory, opens the door again. Maybe they didn't actually slam, but here where we are. They open the door again, and the vacuum cleaner salesman says, "Okay, I understand. It's a lot of money. I get you. I mean, we don't have a lot of money to throw around, but I have this lovely little vacuum cleaner, does almost everything the other one does for $80. And now the homeowner is thinking, I feel kind of bad for slamming the door on that guy. $580 next to 560 sounds really quite reasonable. Okay, come on in. We'll talk about the $80 vacuum cleaner. Now, if the salesman had come up and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, you want to buy an $80 vacuum cleaner?" they probably wouldn't have had the person listen to them. But since they started big and worked their way down, the home owner slash victim is thinking, well, they already backed down on this. We have this relationship going. That's a nice person. So I'll listen to what they say. Kids will do this as well. This time, if they want, I used to work in a pet store. And I recommend that for interesting humanity watching. Not just animal watching, humanity watching. Because children would drag their parents in. And the child would be like, "Oh, look at the doggy, look at the doggy. Can we get a doggy? Like, we play with the doggy." The parents are like, "Oh, hell no, we're not getting a dog. We can't get a dog. It's big, it's expensive, it eats too much. It's not housebroken." And then the kid would heave a theatrical sigh and say, "Okay, can we go look at a hamster?" And the parent will think, I can see this in their face. The parent is thinking, well, a hamster lives in a cage. It's like $10 and another $30 for the cage and a little bit of food and some litter. Compared to the $500 dog and everything else, $50 hamster kid is sure. And the kid would come with a hamster. What the parent didn't know is that the kid wanted a hamster in the first place. The kids who wanted small rodents, hamsters, gerbils, guinea pigs, would ask for dogs and cats. The kids who wanted fish, for instance, would ask for hamsters and gerbils and guinea pigs. Because you ask for something big, you get denied. You ask for something smaller, and the person gives in. Door in the face. Now, lowballing lowballing kind of dances on the edge of ethics and legality in some cases. There are some forms of lowballing that are illegal. But in lowballing, what you do is you get the person to agree to do something, and then you change the rules. You get them to agree to buy something, and then you change the contract. Okay? So, for instance, you go in, you want to buy a computer. I just bought my mother a computer for Christmas. You want to buy a computer. So you go in and you look at computers, and we were looking at the low end of the computers because that's all we needed. And the very nice salesperson came up and was like, "Oh, here we go. You want to buy this? Wonderful. Would you like to, it's only $350. It's quite a steal." We were like, "Yes, it is. We're going to buy that computer for $350. And then the salesperson said, "Oh, but wait, you can get this service plan. You can get a printer. You can get a monitor. You can get all the other things." And of course, by the time we walked out of there, because you had to get ink for the printer and paper for the printer, and then we had to get service plans for those. And by the time we marched out of there, we didn't have a $350 computer. We had an $850 computer system. And did we pay for it? Of course we did. Because once you have made up your mind to purchase something, once you actually see yourself with that computer or driving that car that, as it turns out, doesn't have a radio or air conditioning or decent wheels or rust proofing or anything else, you have to add those are extra. But you already see yourself in that car driving down the road, waving at your friends in this wonderful new car. Let's add on a few $1,000s. What the hell? Because in your mind you've already bought it. That's lowballing. They offer you the bare minimum. If you add in, by the time you agree to the bare minimum, and they say, well, you want to add in these things that you actually want, it's going to cost you more, but you're like, "Oh yeah, let's go." Well, you want to piss off a salesperson. Really, if you want to piss them off, I've done this. Only once. That was enough. I went in, and I was thinking about a car, and I looked at everything, and they looked at the bare bones, and I was like, "That's cool." And then they were like, "Oh, you need to add this to the car." I mean, I was sitting in the office, and they had the paperwork. They were getting the paperwork ready, and they said, "Okay, we need to add this, and tax and title and everything else, and it's going to add up." And I said, "No, I don't want. That wasn't the price that we agreed on. We agreed on this price. If it doesn't include all this stuff, I'm not going to buy it." And I swear that salesperson started to hulk out in front of me. The skin was turning green and the anger was building. I mean, that was terrifying. because they expected me to go along with it and go, oh, sure, add it on, add it on, add it on. Sky is the limit because that's my car. Now, lowballing is, like I said, kind of ethically, but it's legal. Bait and switch is not. Bait and switch is a technique where you offer something at an unbelievably low price to get people in the door, and then when they get in the door, oh, I'm sorry, we're out. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have that. But we have something just like it that's only $60 more. You see this a lot with electronics. In fact, the same place that we bought my mother's computer, we were looking at an ad, and I was looking at the fine print, and I found it amusing, because after each wonderful deal, it said, system-wide, which means over the entire country, we're going to have this many available. Because you can't advertise something if you don't have it. They made that illegal. Electronic companies used to say, here you can get this $900 stereo for $90. Did they ever intend to sell anybody a $900 stereo for? Of course not. They didn't have any. But they got you in the door, and it got you ready to buy a stereo. And if the one you wanted one is available, you'll pay $300 for the one that is. Okay? So nowadays, when they have wonderful deals like that, they usually tell you a minimum number of those that will be in the store, which is often something around 3. So if you're one of the first 3 people in the line, you can get that absolutely wonderful deal. If you're not, and the odds are that you're not, well, they'd be happy to sell you something just like it for only a little more money. Now, that's legal, but like I said, it's kind of tap dancing on the edge of ethical. But they're baiting you in, and then they're switching things on you. That's not all technique should be subtitled the infomercial technique, because you see it all the time. In fact, you could probably do a pretty good imitation of it. We're going to offer you this wonderful product for just $19.99. But wait, we'll also offer you this other product that goes with it. And then we'll offer you this. And if you call in the next 10 minutes, we're going to offer you free shipping. But wait, if you call in the next 5 minutes, we're going to give you 2. They're always going to make you that deal. They don't know what time this commercial is airing. They don't know what time this infomercial is on. They were always going to offer you 2 of these and 1 of those and 1 of those and free shipping. But if they told you that up front, you wouldn't be rushing to buy it. So instead they make it sound like the greatest deal since, English bought Manhattan Island for $18 in beads, which they didn't actually do, by the way. But I mean, they made it sound like, oh my God. Okay? And they always sound like that. But wait, we're going to add this in because they get you so excited. You're like, oh my God, it's a better deal. It's just getting better all the time. I better call. So yeah, I mean, if you've seen infomercials, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because half the infomercials are like this. And they just keep piling crap on. Do they work? Of course they do. I have a set of knives that I bought at a Sam's Club through this sort of thing. And it was hilarious because I knew I was getting sucked in as it was happening. I mean, I could feel it happening. Did it stop me from buying the knives? No. And I must say, they're very good knives. And I have a lot of them if you'd like one. But yeah, it's very effective because you just kind of get all caught up. Lastly, we have guilt induction, and there's 2 basic types of guilt induction. The first type is what I like to call the ASPCA suffering animals type, where you're watching TV and they have pictures of these horrible kittens and puppies and dogs and cats and horses that have been hurt and neglected and they're in pain, and if you just sent them $20, you could help them. Or suffering children. We have these starving children, and if you just send us less than the price of a cup of coffee a day, you can help these children live a better life. I swear, I gotta turn those off because they're just so sad. My mother will not watch television now on certain channels because as soon as that comes on, she's got to change the channel. But that's one way to show you the suffering and make you want to help. The other way to do guilt induction is what you see a lot in direct mail, where they will send you something, right, for free. I've gotten all sorts of interesting things for free. I've gotten coffee mugs. I've gotten Tibetan prayer flags. I've gotten enough address stickers to wallpaper my condo. Okay? And when they give you something free, they're hoping that you are then going to give them money because it's kind of an accepted relationship. I give you something, you give me something. And considering how much crap they keep sending people, it must work pretty well. I've actually gotten over that. I don't tend to send people money when they give me stuff. I just keep the stuff. because I'm aware of these techniques and I try not to get sucked in by them unless I absolutely have to. So there we are. That's how people get you to try to do things. You may not be able to avoid being sucked in by them, but at least you could put up a gallant fight and know when you're being suckered.